attention to the figure in the grainy security footage from Walmart store number 3847 in Marion, Ohio, January 14, 1999. 11:47 p.m. The parking lot is mostly empty, under sodium vapor lights that turn the slush on the asphalt a sickly orange. The building itself is a flat-roofed rectangle surrounded by shopping carts abandoned in the cold. The fluorescent lights are too bright. The linoleum floors are streaked with salt and melted snow tracked in from outside. A handful of night shift workers restock shelves. The checkout lanes are mostly dark except for lane 7, where a cashier in a blue vest processes transactions with mechanical efficiency. Watch the man approaching the register. White male. Mid-30s, dark jacket. Baseball cap pulled low. He carries 4 items in his hands, not a basket. Pays in cash. The transaction takes 93 seconds. He leaves without making eye contact with the cashier. The receipt prints. He takes it. He walks out into the January night. In 18 hours, investigators would discover that receipt in a place it should never have been. The man had purchased duct tape, bleach, trash bags, and a disposable lighter. And he had just made the single mistake that would, 23 years later, place him at a crime scene he swore he had never visited. This was not a random purchase. It was evidence of premeditation. Rebecca Ann Holloway. Ann, 29 years old, elementary school teacher at Lincoln Elementary in Marion. She lived alone in a single-story rental house on Barks Road West, a quiet residential street lined with mature oak trees and modest homes built in the 1960s. Her neighbors described her as friendly but private. She drove a 1996 Honda Civic. She had been planning to visit her parents in Akron that weekend for her mother's birthday. On the morning of January 15, 1990, Rebecca did not show up for work. The school secretary called her home phone at 7:45 a.m. Number Drive Road. By 9:30 a.m., the principal contacted Rebecca's emergency contact, her sister, Nicole Holloway Chen, who lived in Columbus. Nicole tried calling. No answer. She tried again. Nothing. At 11:20 a.m., Nicole called the Marion Police Department and requested a welfare check. Officer David Moss arrived at 347 Barks Road West at 12:14 p.m. The house was a small ranch with white aluminum siding and black shutters. The driveway was empty. Rebecca's Honda was not there. The front door was locked. Officer Moss walked around the perimeter of the property checking windows. Everything appeared secure. No signs of forced entry. No broken glass. No disturbed snow around the foundation. He knocked on the front door. No response.
He knocked again. Louder this time. Still nothing.
Paying Officer Moss radioed for a supervisor. Sergeant Linda Trask arrived at 12:31 p.m. Together, they made the decision to enter the residence. Sergeant Trask used a pry bar on the back door, a wooden frame with a simple deadbolt. The door opened into a small laundry room that smelled faintly of detergent and mildew. They called out Rebecca's name. No answer. The laundry room led into the kitchen. The lights were off. Dishes were stacked neatly in the drainer beside the sink. A coffee mug sat on the counter, half full, cold to the touch. The refrigerator hummed. Everything was orderly. Disturbed. They moved through the living room. A floral couch, a television on a stand, bookshelves filled with paperbacks and framed photographs, mail stacked on a side table, bills, a magazine, a catalog. Normal. The hallway led to 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. The first bedroom was clearly used as a guest room. Bed. The closet held boxes and off-season clothes. The second bedroom was Rebecca's. The bed was unmade, the comforter pulled back as if she had gotten up that morning. Her alarm clock sat on the nightstand, unplugged. The digital display was dark. Clothes were folded on a chair, her purse sat on the dresser, open. Her wallet was inside. Sergeant Trask opened it. Rebecca's driver's license, $43 in cash, and credit cards, everything accounted for. Officer Moss checked the bathroom. Towels hung on the rack. Toiletries lined the counter, a hairbrush. Toothbrush in the holder, no signs of struggle. Sergeant Trask returned to the living room and noticed something she had missed on the first pass. The sliding glass door leading to the back patio was unlocked. She opened it. Cold air rushed in. The patio was concrete, cracked and stained from years of weather. Beyond it, a small backyard with a chain-link fence. No footprints in the thin layer of snow. No disturbance. Tiesco between. She closed the door and turned back to Officer Moss. "Where's her car?" Officer Moss shook his head. "Not here." Sergeant Trask called it in. "Missing person, adult female. Vehicle missing, last seen the previous evening." Nicole Holloway Chen arrived at the house at 2:50 p.m. She was 32 years old, an accountant visibly shaken. She walked through the house with Sergeant Trask, confirming that nothing appeared out of place. She provided a description of Rebecca's vehicle, 1996 Honda Civic, green, Ohio license plate number DXR 4729.
When did you last speak to her? Sergeant Trask asked.
Tuesday night, Nicole said. We talked about Mom's birthday dinner. She was planning to drive up Saturday morning. Did she mention any plans for yesterday or today? No, she was grading papers.
She said she'd probably just stay in. Any new relationships?
Anyone she was seeing? Nicole hesitated. She went on a few dates last fall, but nothing serious. She didn't mention anyone recently. An alert was issued for Rebecca's vehicle. Marion Police Department began canvassing the neighborhood. Neighbors were interviewed. Most had not seen Rebecca since the previous weekend. One neighbor, Harold Brennan, 68, retired postal worker, reported seeing her car in the driveway Wednesday evening around 6 p.m. He had been walking his dog. The car was there. The lights inside the house were on. Everything seemed normal.
Harold Brennan assumed she was home. Harold Brennan was wrong.
By 6 p.m. on January 15th, Rebecca Ann Holloway had been missing for approximately 24 hours. Her car was gone. Her purse was in her bedroom, her wallet untouched. The house showed no signs of forced entry, no signs of struggle, no indication of foul play. Detective Kenneth Aldrich was assigned to the case. 43 years old, 15 years with Marion PD. He specialized in missing persons and had worked 3 cases in the past year where adults had left feet voluntarily due to financial stress or undisclosed personal issues. He approached Rebecca's disappearance with cautious optimism. Most adults who vanish do so intentionally and return within 72 hours. He interviewed Nicole again that evening at the station. She was calm but insistent.
My sister wouldn't just leave, Nicole said. Not without telling anyone.
Not without her purse. Detective Aldrich made a note. Was she under any stress? Financial problems? Anything at work? No. She loved her job. She was saving up to buy a house.
She was happy. Any conflicts with anyone?
Ex-boyfriends? Disputes with neighbors? Nicole shook her head. Rebecca didn't have enemies. She was the kind of person who helped everyone. Detective Aldrich opened a file and began building a timeline. Dead. He requested Rebecca's phone records. He contacted her bank. He reached out to the school where she taught to interview her colleagues. By the end of the day, Rebecca Holloway's disappearance was classified as suspicious. What Detective Aldrich did not yet know was that Rebecca's car had already been found. At 7:22 a.m. on January 16th, a groundskeeper at Harding Memorial Park, a wooded recreation area 7 miles northeast of Marion, called 911 to report an abandoned vehicle in the parking lot. The lot was a gravel pull-off used by hikers and runners. In winter, it was rarely used. Via 17. The vehicle had been there overnight. It was covered in a thin layer of frost. A groundskeeper, Thomas Elkins, 54, had arrived to unlock the restrooms and prepare the park for the day. He noticed the car immediately, a green Honda Civic, Ohio plates. He walked closer and peered through the driver's side window. The interior was empty. No one inside. The doors were locked. He wrote down the license plate number and called the non-emergency line. Dispatch recognized the plate number immediately. It matched the alert issued the previous day. Officers were dispatched. Sergeant Linda Trask arrived at 7:51 a.m. She confirmed the vehicle identification. The car was Rebecca Holloway's. She called Detective Aldrich. Detective Aldrich arrived at 8:30 a.m. He circled the vehicle slowly, examining it from all angles. The exterior showed no signs of damage, no dents, no scratches, no broken windows. The license plate was secure. The tires were properly inflated. Passed around at 19. He requested a tow truck and a forensic team. The vehicle was transported to the Marion PD impound lot at 10:15 a.m. Detective Aldrich authorized a full search. The forensic technician, Gary Unger, 38, began the examination at 11 a.m. He photographed the exterior from all angles. He photographed the interior through the windows. Then he unlocked the driver's side door using a Slim Jim tool provided by the tow truck operator. The interior smelled faintly of air freshener, pine scent. The driver's seat was adjusted for someone approximately 5.5 block 5 inches tall, Rebecca's height. The rearview mirror was angled for that same driver. The keys were not in the ignition. They were not in the car. Gary Unger checked the glove compartment. Owner's manual, insurance card, hydration, a small flashlight. Tire pressure gauge, nothing unusual. He checked the center console, loose change, a pen, a pack of gum, doxate. He lifted the floor mats. Dirt, small pebbles, a dried leaf, nothing. He checked under the seats, nothing. He popped the trunk remotely using the lever beside the driver's seat. The trunk opened with a so-feet click. He walked to the rear of the vehicle and lifted the lid. Inside, a spare tire, a jack, a first aid kit, a canvas tote bag containing reusable grocery bags, and a crumpled Walmart receipt. Gary Unger photographed it in place. Then he carefully lifted it using gloved hands. The receipt was slightly damp from condensation inside the trunk. The ink was faded but still legible. He placed it in an evidence bag and logged it with a case number. The receipt showed a transaction from Walmart store number 30008407 in Marion, Ohio. Date January 14, 1999. Time 11:47 p.m. 4 items purchased: duct tape, bleach, trash bags, disposable lighter. Total $4.22. Payment method: cash. Detective Aldrich examined the receipt in the evidence room at 1:45 p.m. He read it twice. He set it down and stared at it. Rebecca Holloway was a non-smoker. She had no reason to purchase a disposable lighter. The items, duct tape, bleach, trash bags, were not found in her home. They were not in the trunk of her car. The receipt had been placed in the trunk, not in the passenger cabin where receipts are typically discarded. Detective Aldrich picked up the phone and called Walmart store number 3007. He requested surveillance footage from January 14th, specifically from Lane 7 between 11 p.m. and midnight. The footage was delivered to Marion PD on VHS tape. At 4:20 p.m., Detective Aldrich watched it in the conference room with Sergeant Trask and Gary Unger. The timestamp on the footage read 11:47 p.m. A man approached Lane 7. White male. Mid-30s, dark jacket, baseball cap pulled low. He carried 4 items. The cashier scanned them. The man paid in cash. The transaction took 90 to 3 seconds. The man took the receipt. He turned and walked out of frame. Detective Aldrich paused the tape. Run it back. They watched it again. The man's face was partially obscured by the cap. The camera angle was from above and behind the register, focused on the cashier, not the customer. The man never looked up. "Can we get a better angle?" Sergeant Trask asked. Detective Aldrich called Walmart security. There were 4 cameras in the store, 1 at each entrance, 1 above the registers, 1 in the electronics section. He requested footage from the entrance cameras for the same time period. The entrance footage showed the man arriving at 11:44 p.m. He entered through the main doors. His face was still obscured by the cap, but his gait was visible. He walked with a slight limp, favoring his right leg. He moved directly to the housewares aisle. He selected the items quickly, as if he knew exactly what he needed. He proceeded to Lane 7. He paid. He left at 11:49 p.m. The exterior camera captured him walking to the parking lot. He approached a vehicle, dark-colored sedan. The license plate was not visible from the camera angle.
He opened the trunk. He placed the Walmart bag inside.
Then he got in the driver's seat and drove away, heading south on Delaware Avenue. Detective Aldrich froze the frame, showing the vehicle. Zoomed in as much as the VHS resolution allowed. The make and model were difficult to determine, possibly a Ford Taurus or similar sedan, dark blue or black.
Late 1990s.
He made a note. Suspect purchased items consistent with evidence disposal at 11:47 p.m. on January 14th. Rebecca Holloway was last seen at approximately 6 p.m. the same day. Detective Aldrich requested a list of all vehicles matching that description registered in Marion County. The list contained over 800 entries. The investigation had expanded. What had appeared to be a missing person case was now a suspected abduction, possibly worse. On January 18, 1990, a search team was organized to comb Harding Memorial Park and the surrounding woods. 32 volunteers from the community joined Marion PD officers and search and rescue personnel. They began at 8 a.m. The temperature was 28 degrees Fahrenheit.
The ground was frozen. The park covered 140 acres of mixed hardwood forest and open meadows.
Trails crisscrossed the property. A creek ran along the eastern boundary. The search team divided into groups and worked in grid patterns, methodically sweeping through the underbrush. At 2:35 p.m., a volunteer named Jason Medina, 26, a construction worker, noticed a disturbance in the soil approximately 400 yards northeast of the parking lot. The ground in that area was partially obscured by fallen branches and dead leaves. He called out to the nearest officer. Officer David Moss arrived. He knelt down and carefully moved the branches aside. Beneath them, the soil had been recently disturbed. It was looser than the surrounding frozen ground. The area measured approximately 6 feet long and 3 feet wide. Officer Moss radioed Detective Aldrich. Detective Aldrich arrived at 3:10 p.m. with Gary Unger and 2 additional forensic technicians. They marked the area with yellow tape and began the excavation carefully, using hand tools to avoid damaging potential evidence. At 4:47 p.m., they uncovered fabric, dark blue material, denim. They continued digging, removing soil inch by inch. By 5:30 p.m., as daylight faded, they had uncovered a body, female, partially decomposed due to exposure to the elements and freeze-thaw cycles. Clothing intact, jeans, a sweater, winter coat, blonde hair. Wedding ring absent, but a small silver necklace remained around her neck. The body was carefully extracted and transported to the Marion County Coroner's Office. Dr. Ellen Cho, the county medical examiner, 51, 23 years of experience, began the autopsy. At 8 p.m., preliminary identification was made through dental records. The body was confirmed to be Rebecca Ann Holloway. Cause of death: asphyxiation. Ligature marks on the neck consistent with strangulation. No defensive wounds on the hands or arms. Toxicology pending. Time of death: estimated between 8 p.m. on January 14th and 2 a.m. on January 15th. Dr. Cho noted additional findings. The victim's wrists showed faint abrasions consistent with restraints. Duct tape residue was present on the skin of her forearms and ankles. Fibers recovered from the residue were logged as evidence. Body had been wrapped in black plastic trash bags, the same type purchased at Walmart on January 14th at 11:47 p.m. Detective Aldrich received the preliminary autopsy report at 10:20 p.m. He sat in his office and read it twice. Rebecca Holloway had been abducted from her home or intercepted shortly after her leaving. She had been restrained. She had been killed. Her body had been transported to Harding Memorial Park and buried in a shallow grave. The killer had used duct tape and trash bags purchased less than 6 hours before her estimated time of death. The receipt in the trunk of her car had been placed there deliberately. But why? Detective Aldrich considered the possibilities. The receipt could have been leafed by the killer as evidence of his preparation. A taunt, a signature. Or it could have been left by mistake, a small oversight in an otherwise calculated crime. He leaned toward the latter. Killers who are meticulous enough to abduct, kill, and bury a victim without leaving witnesses rarely taunt investigators with receipts. The receipt was a mistake, a small one, but a mistake nonetheless. Detective Aldrich began working the list of 800 vehicles. He cross-referenced the list with individuals who had interactions with Rebecca Holloway, colleagues, neighbors, service providers, contractors. He interviewed Rebecca's co-workers at Lincoln Elementary. Carousel. He interviewed the parents of her students. He interviewed the cashier from Walmart Lane 7. A cashier, Michelle Dorsey, 22, a part-time student at Ohio State Marion, remembered the transaction vaguely. "I ring up hundreds of people a week," she said. "I don't remember faces unless something stands out." "Did anything stand out about this customer?" Detective Aldrich asked. Michelle thought for a moment.
He paid an exact change, like he'd counted it out ahead of time.
"Most people just hand me a bill. Anything else?" He didn't say anything.
Not hello, not thank you.
Nothing. Detective Aldrich made a note.
The suspect had been prepared. He had known the total or had calculated it in advance.
Nasevec. The investigation continued for weeks, months. The trail grew cold. By March 1990, Detective Aldrich had interviewed over 200 individuals. He had eliminated most of the vehicles on the list. Corridor between PCS.
He had no viable suspects, no witnesses.
No forensic evidence linking a specific person to the crime. Rebecca Holloway's case remained open, unsolved. Her family held a memorial service on February 20th, 1990. Over 300 people attended. Nicole Holloway Chen delivered the eulogy. Endowed and notable person that stopped up in the past day. She spoke about her sister's kindness, her dedication to teaching, her love of books and nature. She ended with a promise: "We will not stop looking. We will find out who did this." The case file was transferred to the Marion PD Cold Case Unit in 2001. It would remain there for 20 years. On November 3, 2022, Detective Sarah Van, 37, was assigned to review cold cases as part of a statewide initiative to re-examine unsolved homicides using modern forensic technology. She had been with Marion PD for 12 years. She specialized in digital forensics and had successfully closed 4 cold cases in the past 3 years using DNA analysis and updated databases. Detective Van pulled Rebecca Holloway's file from the archive. 78 and Wendays started to die. and within 40 days reading through the case notes, the autopsy report, the witness statements, and the evidence logs, she focused on the Walmart receipt. The receipt had been logged as evidence but had never been processed for fingerprints or DNA. In 1990, touch DNA analysis was not yet standard practice. Detective Van submitted the receipt to the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation lab for advanced testing. The lab technician, Dr. Raj Patel, 44, used a technique called vacuum metal deposition to visualize latent fingerprints on the thermal paper. Partial fingerprints were recovered. They were run through the automated fingerprint identification system. No matches. Dr. Patel then swabbed the receipt for touch DNA. Thermal paper degrades DNA over time, but advances in extraction techniques had made it possible to recover trace amounts even from aged samples. The swab yielded a partial DNA profile. The profile was entered into the Combined DNA Index System, CODIS, the FBI's national DNA database. No direct matches. But the system flagged a familial match, a close genetic relative of the unknown suspect. The relative's DNA had been entered into CODIS in 2019, following an arrest for a DUI in Columbus, Ohio. The relative was Tyler Holcomb, 28 years old, IT technician. No prior criminal record beyond the DUI. Detective Van requested Tyler Holcomb's family tree VA. Generative genealogist, Dr. Elaine Mercer, 52, who specialized in using DNA to identify unknown individuals through family connections. Dr. Mercer analyzed the familial DNA match and constructed a family tree using public records, obituaries, and genealogy databases. The analysis indicated that Tyler Holcomb was likely the nephew or cousin of the unknown suspect. Detective Van cross-referenced Tyler Holcomb's family tree with the original list of 800 vehicles from 1999. Appeared on both lists. Nathan Holcomb, Tyler's uncle, 59 years old in 2022. Registered owner of a 1997 Ford Taurus, dark blue, in Marion County in 1999. Detective Van pulled Nathan Holcomb's driver's license from the DMV database. White male, date of birth, April 12, 1963. Address in 1999, 1820 Lincoln Avenue, Marion, Ohio, less than 2 miles from Rebecca Holloway's home on Barks Road West. She requested Nathan Holcomb's current address. He had moved to Sandusky, Ohio in 2004. He had been living there ever since. He was employed as a warehouse supervisor at a manufacturing plant.
He had no criminal record, no arrests.
Charges, no red flags. Detective Van obtained a search warrant for Nathan Holcomb's current residence and workplace. She also obtained a warrant for a DNA sample. On November 18, 2022, Detective Van and a team of officers executed the search warrant at Nathan Holcomb's home in Sandusky. The home was a 2-story colonial in a suburban neighborhood, 2-car garage. American flag on the front porch. Nathan Holcomb answered the door at 6:42 a.m. He was wearing a bathrobe and slippers. His hair was gray. He had aged significantly since 1990, but his facial structure matched the general profile from the Walmart surveillance footage. Detective Van identified herself. Mr. Holcomb, we have a warrant to search your property and to collect a DNA sample. Nathan Holcomb's expression did not change. Ask why. He did not ask why. He did not protest. He stepped aside and allowed the officers to enter. The search lasted 4 hours. Officers documented the interior of the home. They collected samples of potential evidence: clothing, shoes, tools, cleaning supplies. Searched the garage. They searched the attic. They searched the basement. In the basement, they found boxes of old documents and photographs. Box contained items from 1999, tax returns, pay stubs, receipts. Among them was a second Walmart receipt from January 14, 1990, time-stamped 11:47 p.m. for $4.22.
Nathan Holcomb had kept a copy of the receipt. Detective Van collected the receipt and placed it in an evidence bag.
She returned upstairs and found Nathan Holcomb sitting at the kitchen table, silent. "Mr. Holcomb," she said, "I need you to come with us." He stood without protest. He did not ask for a lawyer. He did not resist. He put on his coat and walked to the unmarked police car. At the Sandusky Police Department, Detective Van conducted a formal interview. Nathan Holcomb was read his Miranda rights. He acknowledged that he understood them. "Do you know why you're here?" Detective Van asked. Nathan Holcomb looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Rebecca Holloway," he said. "Tell me what happened." Nathan Holcomb leaned back in his chair. His hands were folded on the table. He spoke slowly, as if recounting a story he had rehearsed many times in his mind. "I saw her at the grocery store in 1998, he said. "She was buying oranges. She smiled at me. I thought she was beautiful. I followed her home.
I found out where she lived. I started driving by her house.
I wanted to talk to her, but I didn't know what to say. So you broke into her house.
I didn't break in.
I knocked on her door, she answered. I told her my car had broken down and I needed to use her phone. She let me in. She was kind. Detective Van made a note. The sliding glass door had been unlocked. Rebecca had let him in.
What happened next? Nathan Holcomb's voice remained flat. I asked her if she wanted to go for a drive.
She said no. She said she had to grade papers.
I got angry. I don't know why.
I grabbed her. She tried to scream. I put my hand over her mouth. I tied her up.
I put her in the trunk of my car. You brought her to Harding Memorial Park. Yes. Why? I didn't know what else to do.
I panicked. I thought maybe if I talked to her she would understand, but she kept crying. She kept asking me to let her go.
I couldn't. I knew she would tell someone.
So you killed her? Nathan Holcomb nodded. I didn't want to, but I had to. You stopped at Walmart first. I needed supplies. You bought duct tape, bleach, trash bags, and a lighter. Yes. Why did you put the receipt in her car? For the first time, Nathan Holcomb hesitated. He looked down at his hands. I don't know. I think I was trying to make it look like she had bought them, like she was planning to leave.
I thought it would confuse the police. Detective Van studied him.
You drove her car to the park. Yes, I buried her. Then I drove her car back to the parking lot. I walked home. No one saw me. You kept a copy of the receipt. Nathan Holcomb looked up. I kept it to remind myself that I got away with it. The interview was recorded. Nathan Holcomb was placed under arrest and charged with murder, abduction, and abuse of a corpse. His DNA sample was processed and confirmed to match the DNA recovered from the Walmart receipt. The case against Nathan Holcomb was overwhelming. The trial began on April 10, 2023, in Marion County Common Pleas Court. The prosecution was led by Assistant Prosecutor Jennifer Kemp, 46, a veteran trial attorney with a conviction rate of 91%. The defense was led by Public Defender Michael Roth, 53, who argued that Nathan Holcomb's confession had been coerced and that the DNA evidence was circumstantial. The courtroom was filled to capacity. Becca's family sat in the front row. Nicole Holloway Chin was there every day, flanked by her husband and 2 teenage children. The prosecution presented the Walmart receipt as Exhibit A. Jennifer Kemp held it up for the jury to see. This receipt, she said, is 4 inches long and 2 inches wide. It cost $4.22. It is a piece of paper that most people would throw away without a second thought. But this receipt is the reason we are here today. This receipt connects the defendant to the murder of Rebecca Ann Holloway with scientific certainty. Dr. Raj Patel testified about the DNA recovery process. He explained how touch DNA works, how it is transferred from skin to objects, and how it can persist for decades under the right conditions. He stated that the DNA profile recovered from the receipt matched Nathan Holcomb's DNA with a probability of 1 in 7.8 trillion. Detective Sarah Van testified about the investigation. She walked the jury through the timeline, the evidence, and the familial DNA match that led to Nathan Holcomb's identification. The Walmart surveillance footage was played for the jury. The dark-jacketed figure, the baseball cap, the 4 items, the 93-second transaction. The defense argued that the footage did not definitively show Nathan Holcomb's face. They argued that the receipt could have been planted. They argued that the confession was the result of psychological pressure after being confronted with DNA evidence. The prosecution countered by playing the audio recording of Nathan Holcomb's confession. Parole. His voice was calm, his words were detailed. There was no indication of coercion. On the 4th day of the trial, Nicole Holloway Chen took the stand. She sat in the witness box and looked directly at Nathan Holcomb. Her hands were clasped in her lap. She spoke quietly but clearly. "Rebecca was my best friend," she said.
She was supposed to come to my mom's birthday party.
For 23 years, I didn't know what happened to her. For 23 years, I wondered if she was still alive somewhere. For 23 years, I carried the weight of not knowing. The courtroom was silent. Cars, you took that from me. You took her life. You took our peace. The jury deliberated for 6 hours and 32 minutes. The verdict, guilty on all counts. Murder in the first degree. Abduction. Abuse of a corpse. Nathan Holcomb was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He showed no emotion as the sentence was read. Rebecca Ann Holloway is buried at Marion Cemetery, beneath an oak tree in the northwest corner. Her gravestone reads, "Beloved daughter, sister, teacher."
You are not forgotten. Nicole Holloway Chen visits the grave every month.
She brings fresh flowers, she sits on a bench nearby, and talks to her sister, telling her about her children, about her work, about the life Rebecca never got to live. Nicole has become an advocate for cold case investigations, working with the Ohio Attorney General's office to push for funding and resources for DNA testing and genealogical research. Who are now in their 80s live in a retirement community in Akron. They attend every parole hearing, though Nathan Holcomb is not eligible for parole. It tend to make sure the state remembers what was taken from them. Lincoln Elementary School in Marion established the Rebecca Holloway Memorial Scholarship in 2023. It is awarded annually to a graduating senior who plans to pursue a career in education. The first recipient was a student whose mother had been taught by Rebecca in the 3rd grade. Detective Sarah Van was promoted to sergeant in 2024. She continues to work cold cases. She has since closed 2 additional homicides using familial DNA analysis. Nathan Holcomb is incarcerated at the Ohio State Penitentiary in Youngstown. Public statements since his sentencing. He receives no visitors. His cell contains a bed, a desk, a sink, and a toilet. He is allowed 1 hour of recreation per day. Pangs go. In 2023, the Ohio legislature passed the Rebecca Holloway Act, requiring law enforcement agencies to submit all unsolved homicide evidence for DNA testing within 5 years of the crime, and to retest evidence every 10 years using updated technology. The bill was signed into law by the governor on the anniversary of Rebecca's death. 825 and 47 in Marion, Ohio is still operational. The exterior has been repainted. The interior has been remodeled. The checkout lanes have been upgraded to self-service kiosks. Lane 7 no longer exists. The parking lot where Rebecca's car was found at Harding Memorial Park is now paved. A historical marker has been placed near the trailhead, commemorating Rebecca and the importance of cold case investigations. Joggers pass it every morning. Dog walkers read the plaque. Parents explain to their children why it is there. The woods where Rebecca was buried are quiet now. The creek still runs along the eastern boundary. The trails are well maintained. In spring, wildflowers bloom in the meadows. Families picnic there. Children play. Life continues. But if you walk 400 yards northeast of the parking lot, you will find a small clearing. The soil there is level, the grass is green, but the ground remembers. A single oak sapling was planted there in 2024 by Rebecca's family. It is 3 feet tall now. It will grow taller with each passing year. And in a basement evidence room in Marion, Ohio, a small thermal paper receipt sits in a plastic bag logged under case number 99014H.
4 items, $4.22, 29 cents.
And teen stated. The ink is nearly faded now. It is the smallest piece of evidence that solved the longest case. It is proof that no mistake is too small to catch a killer.